Welcome everybody to this conversation we're going to have with Ali and Sally. The first thing I want to do is obviously today is World Mental Health Day. All around the world, we are trying to build awareness around people, mental health problems, illnesses, issues, and anything else you want to kind of put into the mental health terms. The theme for this year is greater investment, greater awareness, and I thought the only way we can do this and build proper awareness around mental health is by bringing the two mental health specialists in Employees Health together to have a conversation around what mental health means to them, how they look after their own mental health, and some ideas and tips to take away to help everybody else look after their own mental health. So I will introduce both of them. Obviously, Ali is on the bottom. Sally is to my left. You might be all right because I look at her. And obviously, they both have lots of experience around mental health, and both run mental health workshops in our company, Employees Health. Ali is a clinical hypnotherapist, and Sally is our mental health first aider. But what I'll do is I'll pass over and ask. The first question is, where are we? First question, how are you both?
Who do you want to answer?
I don't mind. Ali, you go first.
Go on then. Actually, pretty good. This week's been really challenging, actually, for me, on many levels, with some stuff going on at home. So actually, I would say my mental health's taken a bit of a bashing this week. It's been really challenging. But obviously, knowing what I know how to look after myself. So that's what I've been doing and making sure I'm okay and everyone around me is okay too.
Nice honest response. It's good. Sally?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. I've had a really good week this week. I've been delivering face-to-face courses. I've done 3 days of that this week, which is really nice to get back to. So that always gives me a boost because I love doing what I do. So I'm feeling kind of like a strong 9 out of 10 this morning. So I'm feeling in a good place.
Awesome, bringing the energy for all of us.
Happy days.
So I thought I would start with just a discussion around this year's mental health topic, which is obviously greater investment, greater awareness. And I want to know what you guys think of that and what do you think that means to us as people, us and companies. So Ali, you can go again. So yeah, what does that mean to you?
I think it's it's a really good theme actually, because mental health, mental health awareness days, it's always been quite pointed at individuals. So this is how you can help one another. This is how you can help yourselves. It's all of that. And actually this time it's very much, actually we need to actually be really serious about this on a societal and a functional scale and a large scale. And for that to happen, you need investment. And I don't know if we all know, but I know the state of the most mental health services available to most of us in the UK, at least. I'm guessing because it's the World Health Organization, and from what I've read with them, that's pretty similar all around the world. I was just looking this morning and said actually it's really hard to get good quality mental health care globally. They're very rare to have access to that. So, and I think it's a real call to arms to recognise how much mental health is impacting every level and every sector of our society.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I think from that is you can see that because of COVID and with how the universities and the school kids have gone back, so we are now looking at younger people's mental health as well as people at work, and then as well as the older generations now as well. I think this has really given us an opportunity to just not go people at work suffer with mental health or people who are unwell suffer from mental health. Actually, it's a scale of the whole world suffers from mental health. So hopefully we can build that awareness a bit better. Sally?
Yeah, so I think I'll probably echo a lot of what Ali just said, but we know that mental health issues are a global thing, and really accessing mental health services can be tricky for a lot of people, but there's lots of things we can do to proactively look after our mental health so that we don't necessarily get to a poor mental health state. But for those that do and that need that support, you know, the way that mental health services, I suppose, are kind of set up now, it's kind of very stretched, access can be difficult, and I think globally there's a real kind of aim and goal to make access to mental health services sustainable, and so that people don't come across financial hardship with that, because we, you know, if you've got the money, yes, you can pay for private, but actually a lot of people don't have the money to pay for private. So it's about being able to fund that sustainable way of accessing mental health services. I mean, we all have mental health, right? So we can have positive mental health, but we can also experience poor mental health, and it can happen to anybody at any point in time. So, you know, for World Mental Health Day, I think it's a fantastic focal point, but I also hope it's the start of conversations rather than, oh, it's one day and we're raising awareness. Actually, we need to be talking about this all the time.
Yeah. I think us three as people do that. And I'm just hoping we as a group can make more people aware of the challenges we face and the things we can do before it gets to that stage of actually needing professional support. So in this, what I really wanted today come from what we talk about is the supports we can do for ourselves, because it's empowering ourselves to look after our own mental health. I mean, obviously I'm going to echo everything you guys have just said. One thing I do want to pick up on is, as you said, Sally, it's being able to sometimes look after ourselves before we get to that state of where we need that professional help. So it's recognising the things we can do for ourselves within creating those habits to look after our day-to-day life as well. So the next question is probably it's obviously going to be very personal. What does mental health mean to you? And I want you to answer this pre-COVID and post-COVID. So Ali, you can go first.
I have to go first.
Because you're at the bottom. Last time.
Oh, fair. Okay. Yes. Right. Mental health, as in good mental health, means capability. Actually, I've got capability and capacity. And what I mean by that is I actually know what to do for capability, and I have the capacity, as in I can do it. That for me is really, really good mental health. It obviously, alongside that will come happiness, joy, satisfaction, and all of that stuff. But if you can't cope, you can't access any of that. So that's kind of, for me, is the baseline. And that's what I kind of talk about in my work. I teach people how to cope with life. Pre-COVID, honestly, I was probably a little bit blasé about it, if I'm honest, because life was good. There weren't that many challenges. You know, you're in your kind of your rhythm. I guess, funnily enough, a global pandemic is going to make you stop and think and have to reassess how you do things. Because all of a sudden, in the space of a week, the world stopped. And it was, as far as we were concerned, it was just like, go home and don't come out again until we tell you. You know, that's a pretty big thing. And then I don't know if you remember, but I remember that feeling of literally every day. It was, you know, there was that briefing every day, and we were all kind of glued to it at 5 o'clock. And then you knew you only had 24 hours before you had to go and process some more. And it was just so fast that actually there was a bit where I was kind of just watching everything and everyone and going, okay, well, this makes sense to me that none of us are coping brilliantly because we haven't got the capacity to process this as quickly as it's happening. And then, of course, it sort of settles down a bit. So actually, it was just about really reviewing what do I do? How do I look after it? What's important? And how do I still get the things that I know I need, but in a way that works in, this kind of current reality? Notice I'm not saying the new normal. It's not normal.
No, it's not.
Current reality is how I discuss it.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I don't like that new normal term. It is terrible, because if we stay like this for the rest of our lives, I will cry.
Just want to go and see some comedy and laugh, like within a foot of someone, and maybe get a bit of their sweat on me. That'd be nice. Just so you miss the things, don't you?
Yeah. Small things, you Ali. Obviously, small things. Yeah, I mean, that was, I think I remember that stage where we were back there just listening, and I look back and I always talk about how it took me about 3 or 4 weeks to really just kind of find the focus I needed to create my habits around it, because I'm a routine person. I like my routines. When you get that thrown out of the box, you're gonna have to figure out what that is. But then she said every day, I think it was like for the week, you kind of hearing this is a new rule, you can't do this. And then we had a complete lockdown, and there's still rules coming out and information coming out. And it was super scary. So having that chance just took a while for us to, as you said, manage it and put our routine in place, I guess. Sally, your turn.
Okay, so what does mental health mean to me? I think really it's kind of like the sense of our overall well-being. And I think when we talk about mental health, sometimes we talk about it in the wrong way, that mental health is a bad thing, there's a negative connotation, and a lot of people jump to mental illness rather than mental health as a scale, as something that we all have, from one extreme of positive mental health or thriving, where Ali's touched on, we have the capacity and capability, all the way through to poor mental health, where we might find it much more difficult to function, and we do kind of struggle, and we're almost in survival mode. I mean, where I'm at, I've been proactively looking after my mental health for a few years now, since I experienced mental health issues back in 2016. But again, I think this year I've had to learn even more coping skills and learn different ways of looking after myself beyond, getting out for physical exercise, beyond resting, beyond having a routine as well. So just because of the change and uncertainty was hugely intensified, and I launched my business in January, so even more so I was kind of really mindful of staying optimistic and choosing that, rather than thinking, oh my goodness, my business could just fall flat on its face straight away. Actually, I was choosing optimism, and that's actually we will get through it, and just being really positive around all that change.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, optimism and being positive and seeing the light in the tunnel. Obviously, employee self kind of started through lockdown. So yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. One thing I do want to pick up on from what you said at the very beginning is it's mental health. People do look at mental health as an illness rather than mental health as the whole. And being happy and joyful, and some of the words you guys have used, really important to go back to. Mental health is our state of being, the way we are, the mood we're in. So I think it's kind of key that we recognize when we're also feeling really good, and recognize when we're also kind of happy, and live in those moments in the now of that as well.
Yeah, and I think also with that, people worry about feeling sad, and I think in some situations sadness is the only appropriate response. So sometimes it's about regulation of your emotions as well. If we experience a bereavement, we're not going to be happy and positive. We are going to have that sad response, and actually that's okay and that's normal. But it's about regulating that, and sometimes, and we come through that sadness, and we get to acceptance and all those things. But some people also experience that significant change, and they might need some of that support and help, where we start to see that poor mental health creep in. So I will say, yes, we will experience joy and happiness if we are thriving, but also it's okay to, sometimes feel angry at a situation or sadness, but as long as we regulate it, it's okay. If that makes sense.
100%. Ali?
Yeah, I think that's it, is that what's appropriate. Because as you say, if you're in a really negative, sometimes we worry about that. And it's like one of the it was a really interesting, it's like they changed the way they started describing what happiness is, you know, for a happy person, because it was like, it was originally, it was kind of like people started thinking it was this kind of like this state of attainment, and that you went there and that directly correlated with everyone's like happiness declining badly. So they kind of re-looked at that and thought, okay, what's real happiness? And it's not just like trolling along here, this lovely high level. Is they said the people who exhibited the best levels of happiness, it's not that they stayed there, it's that when they went down and they dipped, they understood that they were going to be back here again. So it was like that ability, and it's like this, which is why I was talking about capability, and is that bit where I know I'm going to be okay. This is a bad day, or this is bad because, and there's a it's that appropriateness that and you can measure it and understand it and allow for it. And better days are coming, so that's that optimism again, all kind of hooks into that same stuff.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. It's a really quite nice way to look at it. 100%. So we're going to move on. Next question I'm going to ask you, and Sally, you can go first because Ali's getting a bit upset going first all the time. How do you look after your own mental health?
How to look after my mental health.
And I'm going to do the same again, pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Okay. Well, I think self-awareness is a huge, huge thing. So when we talk about raising awareness and education and educating ourselves, I think there's a huge bit around self-awareness and, recognizing your patterns of behavior in response to, stressful situations or what that might be, or negative thought patterns as well. So for me, I've really kind of taken note of any kind of negative thought patterns creeping in and trying to stop as early as possible, sometimes noting them down and then kind of saying, well, is this true? Is this factual? And stopping myself early on rather than kind of ruminating and allowing those negative thoughts to just stay in my mind. I've also done a lot of practicing self-compassion and self-kindness this year. So, some days I've woken up and I've just felt like rubbish for no apparent reason, but I've just woken up, in a 5 out of 10 state. Try to do a bit of work in the morning, and rather than saying, oh, you're useless, Sally, what's wrong with you? Why are you feeling this way? I've kind of said, actually, it's okay, Sally, to feel this way. It's temporary. We're kind of touching on what Ali just said. This is temporary and you'll feel better tomorrow. And actually maybe just give yourself the day off today, because there is tomorrow and you can pick up work tomorrow, and that'll be fine. So I've done a lot of that this year, and practicing just talking to myself as I would a friend. I wouldn't say to my friend, pull yourself together, what's wrong with you? If they told me they were kind of experiencing a low mood that day, there's no way I'd say that to my friend. But we so often talk to ourselves that way. So I've been trying to practice that a lot more. Getting out, physical activity, having my daily walk has been a non-negotiable. So when we were allowed out for an hour a day, I was maximising that as much as possible every day. And that's been really kind of key, I think, accepting those negative emotions, focusing on the positive, and the physical activity piece as well, and just taking time to rest. I think particularly when you're working for yourself, you kind of think, oh, it's Saturday morning, but I could do this, and oh, it's Sunday afternoon, but oh, I could do this, and actually you end up not having a day off. So really just being strict and having a routine and self-discipline around taking breaks and having that downtime.
Yeah, I find sometimes though, when I have too much time off, I beat myself up. So I'm like, okay, you haven't done enough. Although I've worked for 5-6 days in a row and been really productive, you have a day off and you go, oh, I should have done something. It's really hard as businessmen to be able to go, actually, you can take this time off, and actually you're not going to not have done something well, you're not being productive. So I always like to reflect on a Sunday and go, okay, what have I done this week? You've done pretty good. Let's make sure we go back hard tomorrow, because you're going to have the rest of the Sunday afternoon off to work hard tomorrow. Ali, how do you look after your mental health?
So again, it is actually really, sleep is a big priority for me. I am very protective about that. So I'm a natural early riser, but I'm not a big fan of the do everything before 8 o'clock club. I don't believe it. And now I have the science to back me up as well. So I'm just like, no, we don't do that. So sleep is actually really, really important. So it's one of those things where if that, and because my sleep is normally really good as well, so it's also one of those real markers for me. It's like if that starts going offline, then that for me is it's kind of like, that's what I've learned, is that self-awareness is such a huge thing, isn't it? Because you look for your own early warning systems, and one of mine is sleep, and the other is lack of motivation, and the third is like literal physical. I have a very physical response to poor mental health, poor mental well-being, so my physical tends to take a nosedive. So it is looking for those kind of little markers, and prioritizing getting them back on track. So yeah, sleep, rest, that was the interesting thing of like the amount of actual downtime, not just sleep, but actual downtime where we're just doing kind of maybe pleasurable activities, or like, simple things like the reading, the walking, the things that don't kind of drive us towards our goals, but actually they replenish us. And again, there's more research coming out into that. That's really, I find that fascinating. I think we're going to see more of that in the coming years, particularly in the mental health arena, as how important that is for our kind of our brain and body function. So rest time, which for me is, my rest time also includes things like, I'll know when I need a mental health day because I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm making food and I'm cooking, and I'll be baking, everyone's like, oh, banana bread, which by the way, why is it called banana bread? It's cake. I can't, I'm not over that yet. But that's one of the things. So clearly we found a lot of people who found their way to help manage. And yeah, so for me, weirdly, baking is one of the things, but making nice food, time outside, time with my people, my really close, my close people, which includes my animals as well. So yeah.
You do talk to them like people as well, so I understand that.
Yeah, they are the nicest.
So.
Yeah, it's true. They're proper people, and not like kids. Like you speak to, like normally they're like kids, and you like proper voices. But Ali kind of talks to them like human beings, and they're only like yay big.
My friend has a boxer puppy that almost weighs as much as they do together now. So, yeah.
My mum's box is pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. And the one thing I'm going to point out is how both yours and Sally's are very different. So yes, they have their trends in taking your own time, but the things you enjoy doing is very different. And whenever I'm talking to anybody, I'm always kind of pointing out the fact that we're all individuals, and our individual needs are going to be very different. So for me, when I look after my mental health, I know sometimes what I need to do, because sometimes I feel stressed or ratty. I know I need a gym day. I need to get in there and just have a couple of hours where I'm around that environment where I'm lifting weights and everybody's on the same path. And that sometimes makes me feel so much better. Obviously with the endorphin rush and all that lot, but just being in that kind of environment also helps. So I do think that's one of the important things we should kind of point out, is actually it's very individual. And sometimes it might take a little while to figure out what it is for you, but just focus and try to reflect on the points of when you do feel better. What could that be? And sometimes kind of writing these things down, and writing down your week is actually I was good then, or I was bad then, I did this and I was better. So then you might be able to recognize on that reflection. Would you think that'd be a good suggestion, guys?
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of, likes of Richard Branson, they do so much journaling. Like every night they have a reflection on their day, whether it's been a good day or a bad day, and then do the whole gratitude thing. So I may have, felt bad today, but these are the things that I've achieved and I'm grateful for this. And that's, again, something I do every night, is I practice gratitude every night. Because again, the research and science behind it is, it's amazing.
Something I really want to do. I always recommend it. I always recommend journaling because I can see the importance of writing down these things, but I haven't created that habit yet, which makes me sit there and write it in. Ali told me a year ago to start doing this, but creating the habit before bedtime is hard. So I'm going to buy myself a journal, a sexy journal to go on my bed pillow and make sure I put it there every evening so I can just write a couple of things down.
Yeah, get it embossed with your initials.
Yeah, something cool, or even employees' health over the top of it. One thing which I really did want to discuss, because obviously the team we work with, I mean, we're all we're all female. Obviously, we're not all female, but there's a lot of females, and we females are known to be very open about talking about their mental health. But there's obviously a big stigma behind men not talking out, and I wanted to know what your thoughts were on, or tips, or whatever it is, to help men improve their mental health when they're feeling low, and give them a kind of an idea of what to do when they're not feeling great, when they need some support. I don't mind who goes first. Ali, you can go first.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, probably a really difficult one to answer, but I think if you have, as a man, if you have a trusted person who you can talk to, because you're right, there is so much stigma associated around mental health, and even more so when it comes to men talking about their emotions and their feelings. And we know a lot of that comes from historical views of what it means to be a man, and all the kind of societal constructs of machoism and all that kind of stuff. I really think talking about how you're feeling is key, and using helpful coping mechanisms if you don't feel comfortable in talking about how you're feeling. If you are in a workplace, having something like an employee assistance program where you can, and on an anonymous basis, just vent and talk about how you're feeling without any kind of worries of judgment or something like that. But I'm mindful of some research that was published a year ago where 76% of male respondents didn't tell anyone how they felt when they were experiencing like huge levels of stress, and that they'd most likely turn to substances as a way to cope, which we know can be detrimental for mental health. So I think it's being mindful of those habits, looking for positive ways to deal with stress. But ultimately, I will always advocate finding that one person you can trust just to talk to about how you're feeling very early on, so that it doesn't progress into something much more serious.
Totally. I think the stats are moving in the right direction, but not hugely fast, because it's working. I think that's the really hopeful thing, is that it is changing. And I think that's amazing, and it shows how much work that people are doing in organizations. Again, it's global, on a global scale, that it is actually starting to build up a pace. There are some amazing charities as well. There are so many mental health charities that are kind of directed specifically for men, where it is very much, and it's, because I think it is, we talk about it in a different way. There's half the time I think it's like guys aren't taught any language around their emotions. So it's just that. So it's really, how the heck are you going to talk about something when you don't have the language to do it? So it's like, how do you describe that? Which is why sometimes, actually, if you're just in an environment, it's like why those gyms opening was so important for so many people. And without making massive sweeping statements, I think a lot of guys, because that was their kind of their space, where actually it was a physical manifestation of the way they were feeling emotionally, and it allowed them to let off a bit of steam. That is a positive coping mechanism. I think education is the key, and say, well, these substances will work for a little while, but actually they're going to make it worse. So I think there's a level of education there, and just really kind of going and just keeping going, because it is working. It is starting to change very, very slowly. Interestingly, when I look at my daughter and her friends, so they're in their late teens, actually I think that it's they don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Not nearly as much. I mean, some of them still do, which again is because they're parented by people my age, you know, who still hold those feelings. So there's still work to be done, but I think we won't have that conversation in another generation's time, probably, or not nearly the same way. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I think one of the things I was going to kind of mention is I think it's important that we are always trying to get men to talk out, but we know they don't. We know they don't like doing it. So we got to find the thing which does help, and it's a support mechanism which does help. So yes, as you said, if you have got a friend which you can talk to, that is a gold mine, right? That is perfect. If you haven't, try to find the thing which helps you look after yourself, because we don't talk out. I'm a man, we don't do it. It's not something we're comfortable with doing. And as you said, we've been brought up in that manly environment where you don't want to open up your emotions. You don't want to feel soft. And I'm quite lucky. I've got great people, and I run a company which is around mental health, so I can talk out to people. People were always discussing it. So for me, I'm in a better position than some people my age, and some men my age, and men getting older. But I'm very worried for the people older than me, and the other people I'm really worried for are the people older than your daughter, Ali. So the 21, just our university, because you're seeing them people struggle as well. And I think it's the loneliness, or whatever it is. I'm seeing the rate of suicide of that age group as well now increasing as well. So I think we just need to keep encouraging people to learn more, talk more, and find what it is that they do to help. So yeah, that for me is like one of my key focuses, is just trying to be able to help, just to educate people how to work themselves. It's probably the most important part, figuring out how they work and how they can improve themselves. It's that knowledge, isn't it? So to finish, I know we've discussed how we look after our health. What is your one tip to positive mental health? Go, Ali, you're going to go first. One.
Go to bed.
Go to bed.
Go to bed.
I mean, that's you can't go wrong with that one, right?
Yeah, if you're going to push me to one, it's that. Go to bed, go to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hold on. So, sorry, Sally. Ali, explain why.
I'll explain why. Because we don't function well when we don't sleep. Humans are the only species that deliberately and consistently deny themselves the right amount of sleep, which, by the way, has not changed. It's still 8 hours. Sorry, everyone. That is like, it doesn't matter how much research they do, it still comes back to that. And when you know what happens if you do less than that, it's not good for you on any level, and if you really want to know about that, just go and look up Matthew Walker on YouTube and prepare to be terrified. But for mental health and well-being, I mean, it does everything for all your well-being as a whole, but for your mental health, it helps you deal with the negative aspects of the day. It helps you learn whatever you needed to learn out of that day. It helps your memory. It will improve how you interact with people. When we're tired, we tend to see faces as negative, even the neutral ones. We don't have that emotional regulation. The less sleep we have, the less access we have to that. So it just impacts us really badly if we don't sleep enough. So is prioritize sleep.
I mean, perfect. Thank you, Ali.
Yes, I'll get off my high horse now.
Perfect. No, it's nice. It's so important. And actually, I think the people which you see with a good mental health, sort of positive mental health, coping best, and the people which do really emphasize their sleep. And people who have good sleep patterns, you see them in a more positive mental state more often. I think that's the key one. Sally, go.
This is so hard one. It's so hard. And I'm flipping between two. So I'm squeezing two. Talk early, communicate, ask for help. make use of your social connections, communication essentially, whether that's, you know, I'm feeling low at the moment, or my workload is too much, I just can't cope. Is there any way we can, you know, review this together? But asking for help, talking, and I think touching on Ali's stuff, you know, looking after your overall physical well-being, your sleep, your resting, your, you know, your nourishment, your hydration.
She's getting loads in here now, Ali, isn't she?
I know, cheater.
And your physical activity. So as look after your physical health, look after your mental health, and talk about your feelings. And I failed. I'm sorry.
You did a terrible job. My tip is create routine. I think you can look at your routine and adjust to your routine to a proactive routine to look after your well-being. Mental health does fall into that, so I'm covering a few stations there as well, Ali. Sorry. But routine is for me important. I think we live off it, we strive from it. And if the people would say, "Oh, I like spontaneity," still have a routine in place, right? So that'd be my kind of tip as well to add on to your words of wisdoms. Awesome. Any final words before I conclude this? No. Okay,
I think that's a really good chat.
Yeah, I think so. I think the only thing I'd say is that everyone's mental health is different. Everyone's coping mechanisms are different, and you've got to find what's right for you. So, you know, I know what's good for me, but like you already touched on, that will be different for what works for Ali and what works for you. So, you know, again, it can be a bit of a journey sometimes finding the things that keep us in that positive mental health space, but to never give up on that and just to keep trying, keep going.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo that. The last thing I'm going to say is mental health affects all of us, and at some point in our lives. So just recognise that and make sure that we are being proactive in how we look after ourselves. Because when we are low, it's going to be a battle and a fight to get out of that position, but we can do it when we put the right things in place. If you have found this really useful and helpful, you can either message me directly or you can message Sally and Ali, because they'll be in the post, they'll be tagged into these social media posts if you want some help personally. But if you are looking to help your companies and your people at work, give me a shout. And we'll have a conversation to see how we can implement some of the stuff Ali and Sally both do into your companies to help your people look after themselves. It's the best way of putting that, right? Because that's what we're ultimately trying to do. Hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoy the weekend and keep spreading the word of positive mental health and how to look after yourselves. See you guys later. Bye, guys.